In an age when the echo of ancient battles still resounded through the hills of Israel, a tale of divine providence and human folly began to unfold. The people of Israel, once united under the covenant with their God, had strayed from their path. Their actions, contrary to the divine will, invited shadows upon their land. In response to their waywardness, the Lord delivered them into the hands of their relentless adversaries, the Philistines, for 40 long years. It was a time of oppression and despair, a period when the light of hope seemed dim and distant. Yet, even in their darkest hour, the mercies of the Lord were not wholly withdrawn. In his infinite wisdom and compassion, he began to weave a new chapter in the saga of Israel. From the womb of a barren woman in the town of Zorah, a child was destined to emerge, not just any child, but a Nazirite, consecrated to God from birth. This child, named Samson, was to be the instrument of the Lord's will, a beacon of hope in a time of subjugation, a judge who would begin the arduous task of fighting for Israel's deliverance. Samson, of the tribe of Dan and a Nazirite, grew up in Zorah, which bordered Philistia, located along the Mediterranean seacoast and west of Canaan. Samson, now a young man, burning with the fire of youth and untested strength, journeyed to Timnah. In this land, among the vineyards and rolling hills, his eyes fell upon a Philistine woman. Upon his return, he declared to his parents that he had seen a Philistine woman in Timnah and he wanted her for his wife. His parents, bewildered by his choice, questioned his decision. "Is there not a woman among your relatives that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistine?" Hoping to sway his heart towards an Israelite bride. But Samson's will was as immovable as the mountains. His desire for the Philistine woman a flame that would not be quenched. He demanded that his parents get the Philistine, insisting that she is right in his eyes. As Samson journeyed through the vineyards of Timnah, the air thick with the scent of ripening grapes, a sudden and terrifying roar shattered the tranquility. Out of the shadows leaped a lion, its eyes blazing with primal ferocity. Samson, with his bare hands, grappled with the lion, a struggle that blurred the lines between man and beast, each force meeting with ferocious might. In the end, it was Samson who emerged victorious, the lion lying defeated at his feet, a testament to the extraordinary power granted to him by God. This encounter, more than just a test of physical strength, was an indication of the tumultuous path that lay ahead. In time, his journey brought him back to Timnah for his wedding, a union that stood at the crossroads of love and the complex webs of tribal allegiances. As was the custom, Samson prepared a feast, a vibrant celebration that brought together the rhythms and hues of Philistine and Israelite traditions. The air was alive with the sounds of music and laughter, the clinking of cups, and the rich, heady aromas of feasting tables. It was a time of jubilation, yet beneath the merriment, the undercurrents of Samson's dual heritage and his destiny quietly swirled. Amidst the revelry, Samson, buoyed by the spirit of the occasion, posed a riddle to the Philistines, a challenge that mirrored the enigmatic nature of his own life. Out of the eater, something to eat; out of the strong, something sweet. It was a riddle born from his encounter with the lion, an experience unknown to his companions, a secret wrapped in the mystery of his divine strength. For 3 days, the Philistines pondered over the riddle, their frustration mounting as the answer eluded them. As the feast continued, the riddle hung over the celebrations like a shroud, its mystery deepening with each passing day. On the 4th day, the Philistines, driven by desperation and the sting of their pride, turned to Samson's wife. They urged her to make Samson explain the riddle, or they would burn her and her father's house to the ground, further accusing her of bringing them to her wedding to have their property stolen. Samson's wife turned her eyes, filled with fear and desperation, towards her husband. She wept before him, her sobs a mixture of genuine fear and calculated manipulation. Samson, unmoved, initially refused to yield, telling her that he had not even revealed the answer to his parents. But as the days wore on, her persistent weeping wore down his resolve. She pressed him day after day until his soul was vexed to death. Finally, on the 7th day of the feast, Samson's defenses crumbled. He whispered the secret of the riddle into the ears of his wife, who in turn relayed the answer to her people. Before sunset of that day, the men of the town came to Samson with the answer, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson, realizing the betrayal, replied with a heavy heart, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle." In a whirlwind of fury, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson. His heart, now a furnace of wrath, propelled him to Ashkelon, a Philistine city. There, he struck down 30 men and took their garments. Fulfilling the wager of his riddle, he brought the clothes to those who had answered his puzzle. This act was not one of mere vengeance. It was a manifestation of a deeper turmoil. Samson's journey, marked by divine purpose, was also riddled with the raw emotions of a man betrayed by one closest to him. The weight of his actions, driven by divine power yet fueled by personal anguish, added another layer to the complexity of his destiny. Time passed, and the seasons changed, carrying with them the echoes of Samson's deeds at Ashkelon. As the wheat harvest began to paint the fields of Timnah golden, Samson's heart, once embittered, softened with the passage of time. Carrying a young goat as a gift, he journeyed back to Timnah to his wife, seeking reconciliation. Upon his arrival, he was met not with the warmth of a reunion, but with startling news. His wife had been given to his companion. This revelation struck Samson like a thunderbolt, a fresh wound upon the scars of betrayal. Samson responded by catching 300 foxes, and, in a feat that spoke of his ingenuity and strength, he tied them tail to tail in pairs. Between each pair of foxtails, he fastened a torch. He released these fiery pairs into the Philistines' standing grain. The foxes, in their panic and confusion, dashed through the fields. Flames engulfed the ripe grain, the vineyards, and the olive groves, a conflagration that consumed not just the crops, but also the hopes of the harvest. The Philistines, upon seeing their fields and livelihoods devoured by flames, sought the cause of this catastrophe. When they learned that it was Samson's response to his wife being given to another, their fury turned towards her and her father. In a tragic twist, they burned them to death, the very fate they had threatened to force her betrayal of Samson. This brutal act of revenge only further ignited the flames of conflict. Samson, upon hearing of the cruel fate of his wife and her father, was consumed by a righteous fury. "Since this is how you act, I swear that I won't stop until I get my revenge on you," he declared. And with that, he struck them ruthlessly. A great slaughter, his actions a testament to the raw and terrifying power vested in him. But the cycle of vengeance was far from over. The Philistines, now in full wrath, marched up and camped in Judah, spreading terror and seeking retribution for Samson's deeds. In an attempt to quell the rising storm, 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Etam, where Samson was staying. "Don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us?" they implored him. "What have you done to us?" It was a moment of confrontation. Samson, however, remained undeterred. He agreed to go with them, but only on the condition that they would not kill him themselves. Bound with 2 new ropes, he was delivered to the Philistines, a gesture of Judah's submission to their overlords. As Samson was brought to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting in triumph to meet him. Their shouts, a cacophony of victory and vengeance, echoed through the air, heralding what they believed to be the downfall of their formidable adversary. However, in the midst of this chaos, the power of the Lord surged through Samson once again. The ropes that bound him, like charred flax, dissolving into nothingness at the touch of divine strength. His hands free, he found the fresh jawbone of a donkey, and wielding it as a weapon, he unleashed his fury upon his captors. In a display of might and wrath that seemed almost beyond the realm of mortals, Samson struck down 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone. It was a scene of unparalleled ferocity, a testament to the extraordinary power granted to him by God. Samson utters a poem, a spontaneous burst of poetic expression that captures the irony and the magnitude of his victory. He names the place Ramoth Lehi, or Jawbone Hill. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, Samson, exhausted and parched, cried out to the Lord, "You have granted this great victory by the hand of your servant. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Miraculously, water flowed from a hollow place in Lehi, quenching Samson's thirst and reviving his spirit. Samson's life took yet another turn. He fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. In her, Samson possibly found not just affection, but a challenge, a complexity that must have intrigued him deeply. Their relationship, intense and fraught with undercurrents, caught the attention of the rulers of the Philistines. Seeing an opportunity, they approached Delilah with a proposition, one cloaked in silver. "Seduce him and learn where his great strength lies," they urged, "and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him, and we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." Delilah, now entangled in a web of politics and power, faced a choice. Her actions in the days that followed would carve a path of betrayal and heartache. She turned to Samson, her words honeyed and smooth. "Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou might be bound to afflict thee." He told her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that were never dried, then shall I become weak, and be as any other man." The Philistine rulers, upon receiving this information from Delilah, acted swiftly. They brought her the bowstrings, and she bound Samson with them. Samson, perhaps intrigued by her persistence or blinded by his feelings, spun another tale. "If they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I shall become weak and be like any other man." Once again, Delilah acted on his words. She took new ropes and bound him, and then, with the Philistines hidden in her room, they tried to subdue him. But as before, Samson snapped the ropes off his arms like threads. Delilah's frustration grew with each failed attempt, her pleas becoming more insistent, her tone laced with accusation. She uttered the same words as his wife. "How can you say, 'I love you,' when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and have not told me where your great strength lies." Day after day, she pressed him with her words, her nagging leaving him tired to the point of death. Finally, once again, Samson's resolve crumbled. He opened his heart to her. Once again, he revealed a secret, this time, the secret of his strength. "No razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." Delilah sensed the truth in his words. She sent for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up this once, for he has told me all his heart." She lulled Samson to sleep on her knees and called for a man to shave off the 7 locks of his hair. His strength left him. As he slept, the Philistines seized him. They gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze fetters, and he became a grinder in the prison. The man who once struck terror in the hearts of the Philistines was now reduced to the most menial of labors. Samson's tale took its darkest turn, a poignant reminder of the fragile line between strength and vulnerability, between trust and betrayal. As Samson toiled in the prison at Gaza, grinding grain in darkness and captivity, a subtle yet significant change began to occur. The hair on his head, once shaven, started to grow again. Though his physical sight was gone, this regrowth symbolized a deeper, perhaps more profound form of renewal. It was as if with each new strand, a small piece of his former strength was being restored. Meanwhile, the Philistines, reveling in their victory over the once mighty Samson, prepared a great celebration. They gathered in the temple of their god Dagon to offer a grand sacrifice. Their hearts were full of mirth, and they said, "Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands." As the temple filled with people, including all the lords of the Philistines, and thousands gathered on the roof to watch the spectacle, they called for Samson to entertain them. He was brought from the prison, a shadow of his former self, to be mocked and jeered at, a source of amusement for those who once feared him. In this moment, amidst the cacophony of jeers and laughter, a prayer formed in Samson's heart. He called to the Lord, "O Lord God, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray just this once, O God, that I may with one blow take vengeance on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." As he positioned himself between the 2 central pillars, Samson braced himself, his arms stretched out. With a final surge of strength, a gift granted by the God he had served, he pushed against the pillars. The temple, filled with the Philistine lords and the people, began to tremble. With a thunderous roar, it collapsed, killing all those within, including Samson. In his death, he killed more of the Philistines than he had during his life. The story of Samson is more than a tale of physical strength and heroic feats. It is a narrative steeped in the complexities of human nature and divine providence. His life, marked by both extraordinary power and profound weakness, serves as a mirror reflecting the dualities inherent in us all. In his moments of triumph and failure, passion and vengeance, we see the interplay of divine purpose and human choice. In the end, his life challenges us to look beyond our frailties and to trust in the divine plan, even when it seems obscured by our failings. It teaches us that strength is not just a physical attribute, but also a matter of the spirit, and that true victory often comes in the most unexpected ways, ending not with finality, but with the promise of a new beginning for a people on the cusp of reclaiming their destiny.